Wouldn't it be comforting to know that over the course of our entire lives, that we could have plenty of money to cover all of our expenses, whether reoccurring ones or ones that come up suddenly? With this kind of wealth available to us, we never have to worry about whether we could afford to live the life that we envision. Now imagine if we created an emotional savings account, the same way we save money, that would give us the emotional assets to effectively lead ourselves through all of life's twists and turns. On an individual level, I'm proposing a fundamental change to your emotional constitution. Further reaching, this change could make each and every one of us members of an emotionally strong, emotionally wealthy society. Let's consider this. How many people live their lives based on what others think? How many people feel anxious or depressed? How many procrastinate? How many feel reactive, out of control, maybe even suicidal? At different points in my life, I struggled with all of these things because I didn't have enough emotional strength, currency. So why does this matter for all of us? Well, in a recently released report, or in a recently released film, One Nation Under Stress, Dr. Sanjay Gupta discovers the link between the CDC reports of declining life expectancy and an increasingly stressed America, despite the US spending more on education and healthcare than any other country. Dr. Gupta found that in the 1960s, America had the highest life expectancy in the world. Today, the US ranks at the bottom of major developed nations, and with exponentially rising rates of stress, anxiety, addiction, and depression, as well as accelerating rates of suicide in the US, Dr. Gupta argues that not only are we in a state of distress, but that we're in an increasing state of despair as people struggle to adapt to this rapidly changing environment. On a larger scale, with 1.1 billion people around the world experiencing some form of emotional health condition, and then failing to make their contribution to society, as individuals and as a collective, we're clearly in the midst of a worldwide emotional crisis. Now more than ever, it's essential that each one of us develop a rock-solid emotional foundation to live the rest of our lives on. Effective, not affected. While these two words sound very similar, they're actually opposites. When you're emotionally strong, you're able to be effective in any situation. When you are emotionally affected, then you're reacting to all that's occurring around you and allowing others to dictate your destiny. Being effective is the goal, right? And in each moment, that choice is a deposit in our emotional strength savings account. That is having enough emotional resources built up that lets you keep making a consistently productive choice that avoids being affected. This is critical for all of us because each time we're being emotionally affected, we're letting others limit us from living our real purpose and our full potential. I'm talking about a life of action, not reaction, where you make the choices instead of your emotions making them for you. This can start at any point. And in fact, before you even leave this auditorium, you can start saying this mantra and it'll give you a lot of emotional strength. Emotional strength training is at the foundation of what I do. And my expertise and all of my experience have brought me to this moment and what I'd like to share with you. Before I became a psychologist, I actually spent my life as an emotional scientist. Now, for any of you that are interested in a career in this field, when you look it up, you're not going to find it because I made it up. And this is one of my favorite perks about being an emotional scientist. As a member of a family where people were emotionally affected on a regular basis, this is how I chose to navigate from my childhood to today. As an emotional scientist, I studied my family members in their natural habitat. It's true. Don't worry, they gave me permission to share this family photo of us. Yeah. Can any of you tell which one's me? The little one in the middle? Anybody, does this resemble anyone else's family? Okay, it's just me. In all seriousness, the emotional impact that my family members had on each other and on me was literally screaming for some kind of a solution. I wanted to help my family, but I also needed to stay out of the line of fire. So as a practical strategy, I kept myself focused on all of their emotions and reactions to know exactly how to position myself. The thing that I witnessed, or for each struggle that I witnessed, the thing that I noticed the most was that just one emotionally affected family member could actually have the power to change the course of our entire family forever. I loved my family very much, and so as a little girl, I vowed to either find or create a solution to emotional problems. But my window into the world of emotional expertise actually began in my bedroom with the covers pulled up over my head, trying to drown out the sound of my parents' late night arguing. Even at 4 years old, the emotional scientist in me could see the difference between my parents and the emotions that were sabotaging them. From the age of 4 through elementary, middle, and high school, I regularly cataloged all of the struggles and all of the damages that my family was incurring. The thing that I noticed the most was that all of their emotions and reactions were creating real expenses. Things like wasted time, broken relationships, missed opportunities, excess spending, and overindulging in everything just to avoid dealing with their emotional discomfort. I got really, really affected. And so much so that by the age of 16, I was imploding from years of anxiety and insomnia and depression and an uncontrollable eating disorder. And this eating disorder got really bad. But at one point, when I was 18 and I was just desperate to get control over myself, I decided I was going to count up all of the binge food that I had eaten over the years. And when I did, it totaled over $20,000. And between you and I, $3,000 of that was Reese's peanut butter cups. Can you imagine? Every one of those emotionally affected moments was worth cold, hard cash. Looking back now, if I had been able to make an effective choice every time I was affected, I would have saved myself a lifetime of emotional expenses. For each of our emotional strength assets to grow, our purpose must drive all of our responses and actions, not just being affected by our emotions, Otherwise, we will continue to incur emotional expenses, whether we're willing to account for them or not. But through self-connection, a selection of your intentions, awareness, and a laser focus on your priorities comes better productivity, better outcomes, choices, and freedoms. And as a secondary effect, instead of being a negative influencer in people's lives, you can be a positive influencer in the lives of everyone around you. The good news, it does not take being the next Steve Jobs, Ariana Grande, or a member of the Kardashian dynasty in order to be a major influencer. It's the emotionally strongest people that are going to lead all of us through the future, and you can choose how you're going to influence people, starting with yourself right now. You want to know how I made my change? Picture this. I had a lucrative job with a 6-figure salary. I had a company car, an expense account. I ate 5-star dinners. I traveled the world, and I had this amazing apartment in Manhattan. Everything from the outside looked exciting and fantastic. But inside, my life felt like a nightmare. I was in so much pain because every day I spent giving an Academy Award-winning performance of being a successful person. I was living a lie, and living a lie was torture. And just like so many people who are not living a life of their choosing, I tried to replace it by shopping and eating and partying and searching for Prince Charming. But things became very clear one day while I was on a conference call and I was managing my team, and all of a sudden I started to have this out-of-body experience. There I was looking, hovering over my desk, looking down at this very bright, young, attractive executive, and I heard myself talking and saying stuff that when I really looked at it, I knew I didn't care about it. I was like pretending to care about it. And then I had this huge epiphany. And I thought, what a liar. What a fraud. I was like, who is this person? This was a huge turning point because I knew that if I did not change myself on an emotional level, I was going to spend the rest of my life living someone else's definition of success and probably weighing 300 pounds. Not being emotionally strong enough is where so many people get trapped, not living their dreams, but instead following society's expectations for them. Even when you get an otherwise great job at a really cool-looking company, you can still get yourself trapped because you're not emotionally strong enough to create the exact life that you want. This was the source of my suffering, and I know it's the source of so many people's suffering. And for me, I just didn't want to do that to myself anymore. So instead of just staying in this state of being affected, I opened up my emotional strength account. And when I started focusing on my purpose and outcomes, everything, and I mean everything, changed for the better. I finally felt strong. I finally felt strong instead of pretending to be strong. I finally felt successful, and I felt unstoppable. So much so that I became a psychologist and then made a full-time career of creating the emotional strength effect. Over the years, I've been able to help thousands of people. And what I found is that our world is missing out on some of its greatest assets. We need more people who are emotionally strong and empowered to bring this balance and purpose to their communities, to face challenges created by emotional limitations, and to amplify triumphs and accomplishments personally and professionally. Regardless of whether you are a little affected at times or extremely affected a lot of the times, each and every one of us can burst the bubbles of our own emotional sensitivities and boldly share our gifts with the world. So for those of you that would like to have that limitless emotional savings account, here's how you build epic emotional strength. Number one is stay connected to yourself. Check in with yourself as much as you check your phone, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, all of it. Number two, choose your intentions in every situation. Focus on your outcomes over your feelings. And if you're feeling emotionally affected, just saying the word outcomes over and over can make a huge difference. Number three, say and do only what will create your desired outcomes in order to be and stay productive. No exceptions here. This is how you become the emotional strength effect, because being affected is limiting, but being effective is limitless. You'll either be limitless throughout your life or limited by all that occurs in your life, incurring a cost or receiving a benefit, either experiencing the emotional expense effect or being the emotional strength effect. And as an added bonus, you can also stop affecting others who would probably affect you back anyway. The emotional strength effect is real. It's an emotional butterfly effect. Every time you make an effective choice, it has a ripple effect that can travel halfway around the world. The myth is that the smartest or the most beautiful or the most talented people are the most successful. The fact is, the emotionally strongest people are the most successful. And with emotional strength, you have a chance to write your story as an original. What I saw when I looked at all those earlier statistics was not a group of people who were anxious, depressed, addicted, or sick. What I saw was all of their potential contributions and innovations and the possibility of never giving them to anybody. The question for all of us is this: will we continue the legacy of emotional struggle that's been handed down to us due to a lack of emotional training and education? Or will we create a new legacy of positive emotional impact to share with others as a result of our influence? In a world that is the most accelerated, demanding, overstimulating, and competitive in human history, we need emotional strength to adapt to being in a state of consistent effectiveness. While it may feel like the world is creating you, you're creating the world by becoming the emotional strength effect. Thank you.